Hey, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo Podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank with Jeff Kolpack. I'm Dom Izzo. North Dakota State set to open Missouri Valley League play on Saturday. No bye week as the Bison will travel to Vermilion, South Dakota for a matchup with the 1-2 South Dakota Coyotes after a win in their home opener last weekend against Cal Poly.
I think after getting back to the hotel at, 4:35 a.m. Central Time, we need a bye week.
I needed one Sunday, I tell you that. That red eye, I've never experienced one before, and I was on about 40 straight hours of being awake. That was, in my younger days.
You need a bye week.
In my younger days, I could have pulled that off, but I was...
Oh, are you pulling the old guy card now?
Yeah, I am old.
You're in your 40s.
Yeah, and I was dragging on Sunday night.
I suppose Jackman wasn't impressed.
He was excited to see Dad. Let's just say that. Before we talk about the USD game, I want to reflect a little bit on the life of Darrell Mudra. Passed away yesterday at the age of 93. Legendary Bison coach that got the role started. Jeff, I know you have a story. You can read it right now at inforum.com. Really good stuff with players that played for him. You did this, correct me if I'm wrong, when we went to Frisco for the first time in 2011, connected with that 1965 team that started that was coached by Mudra.
Right, and let's back up a little bit. It wasn't really so much Darrell Mudra as Herb Albrecht, the president back then, was the guy who said, we've had enough. I've had enough of this losing. And so Herb Albrecht, the Teammakers started in the late 50s. It wasn't like Teammakers started in 63 or 64. Teammakers had been around. They'd been meeting at the Elks Club downtown. But it was Herb Albrecht that really, I think, put a marriage to the boosters and the football program and said, you guys got to raise the money. I mean, if you want to go 0-10 every year, that's fine. But put your money where your mouth is. And so guys like Lee Peterson and others, and I forgot the names now, but said, okay, we'll raise the money. And really, it's been, if you want to boil it down, honestly, with the Bison dynasty, it starts with the dollar. Because finally, some people said,
Early days of name, image, likeness you're talking about here?
Well, let's put some money into scholarships.
Yeah.
I mean, people aren't going to go to school for free. And talking to Bruce Earhart yesterday, he was a running back on the 63 team that was 0-10, or 62, 0-10, 3-5 and 63 was Mudra's first year. And they had a lot of guys from Fargo Central. So, I mean, they didn't recruit very far. And so what Darrell Mudra did is he brought in some junior college players, notably the Sturdivants from Wahpeton and others, and really started recruiting hard, but they worked different. He said the first fall camp they showed up, 2-a-days, and it was different. It was work ethic. It was, if you don't want to be around, if you don't want to put your work into it, people left in a hurry.
No kidding.
Yep, and that changed I hate the word culture because I love the word culture, but I hate it in the same vein.
It just gets thrown around.
It gets thrown up, but that's Darrell Mudra. If anything, he changed the work ethic of this program.
It's interesting because there's so many similarities to me of seeing the 2009 Bison that won 3 football games and in 2011 won the national championship.
Okay, what's the difference there?
Well, just the 62 team that didn't win a game to what the 65
Well, there was
team
a buy-in.
did,
There was a buy-in problem with the 09 team, right? It was there was guys getting in trouble off the field. I mean, we don't have to rehash that.
Yeah.
And then Craig Bohl, to his credit, said that's enough. Let's stop recruiting the stars, meaning 5, 4, 3-star, 2-star. Let's stop paying attention to the stopwatch, and let's start paying attention to what's between the ears a little more.
He really won wherever he went, or just
it's amazing, isn't it?
Football programs wherever he went, he was a success, which is remarkable because you see college coaches now that bebop all around the country and do not have the success. They can't replicate the success they had that got them the job in the first place most of the time.
I found most bizarre in our time in Tucson for a couple days last weekend was we're walking around the campus. We did our pregame show on campus, beautiful campus. Walking around the bar district and having dinner downtown on Broadway Boulevard and wherever those, Park Boulevard and things like that. A happening place, right? It was very cool.
It was going. Yep.
And it's in our lifetime that a guy went from Arizona, Darrell Mudra, to Western Illinois, and he got a pay raise. Wrap your head around that.
No, I read that.
How do you go from Macomb or from Tucson to Macomb? Have things changed that much in Tucson?
I guess so.
Evidently.
Two places that Bison fans have now gone to now can wrap their minds around that statement, which is just odd.
I can't.
No.
And I didn't know how ill Darrell Mudra was. I didn't know how he's doing. I was told from an acquaintance that he was in memory care last week because I tried to get a hold of him. Yeah. And for him to pass away a week after I did the story, it was just almost haunting.
Yeah, a little bit there. But really the genesis of everything that you see now when the Bison take the field tomorrow in Vermilion really began with his hiring and that genesis there in the mid-'60s.
And what Herb Albrecht did is he gave Darrell Mudra carte blanche on to hire who you need. Hire the coaches you need. He hired Ron Earhart.
Good stuff there.
And he hired Buck Nystrom.
It worked out all right with those guys.
Yep. He hired good assistants.
So rest in peace to the great Darrell Mudra. I want to we're already almost a week removed now from the game last Saturday, but there are a couple of talking points out of Matt Entz's press conference that I wanted to get your thoughts on. And we're going to talk more about it on Bison Game Day tomorrow. And firstly was just on a couple of point-blank questions Entz was asked. One, I asked him about his defensive line. The other was asked by Ross Uglum about his linebackers. And Entz did not call guys out, but he came about as close to doing that, Jeff, with his answers on Monday.
Probably as much as he came, as close as he has come in his tenure at NDSU, I thought. Was that right?
I think so.
And he also took the task as medical staff. I mean, he said they do a great job, but he was questioning Cole Wisniewski. He sees him running around and goes, can we put a helmet, shoulder pads? I mean, what's going on here? Are we going to see Cole Wisniewski this weekend?
Not from what I saw. We were up at practice. He was still not practicing, so I don't believe you're going to see number 31 out there. He was asked about his defensive line, and he said they look like freshmen. Said you could hear from the coaches talk about pad level all the time, but when you get out there, that's a whole different deal. Granted, I know they were facing a Pac-12 opponent in Arizona. Also asked about finding a guy at the middle linebacker spot.
And
this is the one that was really intriguing to me. I'd like for somebody to show me to pick a guy to be the middle linebacker.
There's a little challenge to Luke Wirtz and Nick Kubitz. One of you need to step up.
Wow. That was...
I thought Mike McFeely, great stat that he brought up, and I didn't realize this, that NDSU has given up 100 yards rushing 3 times already this year, all 3 games, and only 4 times all of last year.
And that's the 2 opponents that
probably shouldn't have.
No way. And maybe it goes back to that first drive of the season that Drake put on a 9-play, 75-yard drive. They scored a touchdown, and the Bison defense really still hasn't found its footing. And these are the 2 areas we talked about, the middle of the defensive line.
And they haven't been bad, and it wasn't that. No. But they haven't been
the standard that we know that they have played at. The linebacker one still hasn't been figured out. And now as conference play here, that's going to rear its head more, I think, Jeff, that's Wisniewski's absence is large, and I think it's still out of sight, out of mind with some fans. Like, oh yeah, we have him, but he's not playing right now. These are the guys they have, and Wirtz and Kubitz have to be better. They have to be. Simple as that, because the level of player you're going to see. Travis Tice is a downhill running back. He will run you over. Shamari Lawrence is a guy who can explode on the outside for USD. These are guys that are going to be hard to bring down. They're going to have to try and find a way to do that on Saturday. And
for the most part, they're going to be seeing it every week. Maybe not Indiana State and Western Illinois, but you're going to be seeing it now. It's a little teams take it up a notch in conference play. It's just a fact.
Especially when they see this team. They take it up even higher when it's North Dakota State that the one they're playing. It's already at a certain level for Valley play, and then it goes up times 3 or 4 when it's North Dakota State that the team they're playing. I don't. This isn't anything that you can fix. These are the guys you have. You might be able to play somebody different at middle linebacker. I don't know. I know they toyed with that during the North Carolina A&T game. They had some different packages out there.
And they put Kaiser there a little bit?
Maybe. I mean,
he's not a middle linebacker.
He's not the size of that. That is not the prototypical
They're missing
guy
Jackson Hankey.
Yep.
Jackson Hankey was a superstar, not so much in athletic ability, but he was a superstar in how he played the position.
Mentally, yes. They're missing Wisniewski, too. I mean, Cole could play middle linebacker.
Yep.
If the need arises that I know he's played the outside, but because he was ready to do that.
He's 6'4", 230.
Remember during the spring season when the Bison were, last time they were set to play South Dakota down there, Wisniewski was set to start because Hankey was not going to play because he was with a concussion. And then obviously we know what happened after that. The game never happened, but that's a spot they are sorely missing there. I'm going to go also offshoot of this on the Bison offense. Jeff did whatever they wanted for 98% of that game until the last 5 offensive plays against Arizona. But still, we've not seen an over-the-top threat yet. And I know when you ran the ball for 300 yards, you don't need to. I understand that well and good. But someone is going to have to get a first down on 3rd and 7, no?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I think. Somebody's going to have to catch the ball down the field.
There just hasn't been much of the middle passing game at all, or even much of a deep threat.
No deep threat. None at all to me.
No.
None. They've had the middle game with Gindorf. I mean, Gindorf's the leading receiver on the team. So when you have that happening, I mean, okay, that and
Hunter Lipke's next.
Lipke's 2. So your wide receivers are almost not. Phoenix Sproles has 1 catch in 3 games. That ain't going to work. I understand that they didn't need to throw the ball when you're up by 40-some-odd points like you were in the first 2 games, but that's not going to happen every week. I don't imagine that's going to happen tomorrow against South Dakota, that you're going to have to make a play down the field, and that
don't you think South Dakota's going to stack the box?
Absolutely. And I
throw 9 guys up there and go, okay,
and I'll
dare to
go
long.
I'll throw this back at you. I don't believe this is a game where you work Lipke to the bone like you did last week, right?
I don't think you can the rest of the year.
No.
I think you got to
pick your spots. South Dakota State.
Maybe Tamarick gets more touches.
And he had a nice run, a couple of nice explosive runs that he's maybe getting closer to getting back. But I think the larger point is they just have to find a little
more balance. Is that what you're saying?
We talked about during fall camp,
right.
Who's going to catch the ball down the field? A lot of the guys are the same ilk of player. Mathis is different size-wise, but his 2 touchdowns have been either really blocked well or thrown to a spot where only he could catch it.
Give me a receiver with 4 catches for 130 yards.
Yeah.
Something
I'll
like
take
that.
4 for 100. 4 for 85.
Yeah.
Something in that vein. Yeah, you have a field day with that. Look, what R.J. Urzadowski did against the South Dakota team, time and time again, or Darius Shepard did against them. That's what you need. Speaking of the Yotes, I know you talked about this last week on the podcast before they matched up with Cal Poly. They made the change that Ted Schlafsky, who was calling plays, I'm not sure what he's doing now. I don't know if his exact job title is.
Well, I think he's still quarterback
coach. But Bob Nielsen is calling the plays now, the head football coach. And I talked to him, and I know you did as well, that he said dust off the rust before calling the game against Cal Poly. But clearly it worked to the tune of 560 yards against Cal Poly's defense on Saturday.
That's Cal Poly's defense.
Exactly right. Yep.
Let's see how the jury's out, I think, on Bob calling plays, and the jury's out on the Yotes offense. You can't say because you did this against Cal Poly that everything's good. Yeah. I don't think their offensive line is particularly that good. They really haven't been for a while. I don't think they've recruited to a standard of being a threat year in, year out in the Missouri Valley. That their offense, they're always so thin.
Yeah, depth-wise has always been an issue with them. Absolutely right. And I asked Bob this when I talked to him yesterday, just about, when you face North Dakota State, traditionally it's been at the back end of the schedule, that your depth has certainly either been worn out or completely gone. Is it any different now? And he said, well, we're still without a few starters now. They're out with the starting linebacker. They're out with the starting center is out. They're out with the starting.
Do you find it a little weird that there's still tickets available in an arena that seats 9,600?
Not a little weird. I find it a lot weird, actually. I thought
almost a whole section.
Yeah, I thought if there was any game that was going to be packed in Vermilion this year, it'd be this one. Because the Jacks, they play the Jacks in Brookings. So if there's a game to get excited about, it'd be when the champs come, and that clearly
maybe it will be packed.
Yeah, maybe.
But
maybe with Bison fans, I don't know if they scoop up them, but it.
Yeah, hey, if you're thinking of going to Vermilion, tickets available.
Apparently, you can still do that. But I look at this. Carson Camp has scored in a 75-yard touchdown run on a broken play on the 3rd play from scrimmage against Cal Poly last week.
That, Dom, is you hit it. That's a perfect example because that's a defense that's not running to the ball. I mean, that's a defense that gave up.
Camp is not a running threat under any circumstances.
You can't tell me that 11 guys were hustling as hard as they could on that.
It did not look like. Tice is an intriguing player, number 5, running back for USD, who ran hard last season. He got hurt So I think he only had one carry against the Bison last year. But prior to that, he was carrying the load, him and Lawrence got hurt as well last year. That's a good 1-2 punch that USD has at running back.
Yeah, but they have injuries too. Hillis, right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yep.
Is a game time decision. Yep. He's their second leading tackler.
Really good player.
They already lost a linebacker. They lost an offensive lineman.
Jakari Starling, they're already without him, who's a starter, who's a really good player there too. So, that was the trade-off, Jeff, and Bob told me this, and you know this well, of those first two games. They play Kansas State and Montana. You got to somehow, can we get through that okay before we start Valley play? And it looks like they didn't come out. Neither did the Bison. The Bison lost Eli Mostart, but that's a tough. When you have the kind of depth that NDSU is, you can maybe temper that. USD does not have that right now.
Can we talk a little stats?
Go for it.
We're almost a third of the way in the season, right? And so I think
We'll
now
be after Saturday. Yep.
You're starting to get a little microcosm of how things are going. NDSU is 111th in passing offense.
That goes back to what I'm talking about off the top. Yeah.
But USD 90th in scoring offense.
Well, I mean, they had 0 and what was it, 6
Took
or
107 minutes before they scored a point this season.
Right.
They're 66th in passing offense. Their defense, though, rushing defense, 94th.
There's right there.
And you're going against the nation's top rushing attack for 10 years.
You want to say whatever you will about how offensively they played. Jeff, they gave up 559 yards of offense to Cal Poly last week. So that, to me, if I'm Tyler Roll, and we just saw what the Bison offense did against Arizona for the most part, you might see a heck of a lot more of Cole Payton again this week.
Yep, but before we vilify the Bison offense so bad, just remember, though, Cam Miller's 23 of 33, 70%, fifth passing efficiency in the country.
Yep.
But a lot of that's been little short stuff.
Correct, which is the complete opposite of where we were at this time last year. When we were talking about Quincy Patterson, no problem with the deep ball. That looks great. But can you complete the 7-yard out? Now it's the flip where we can
can't be happy, can we?
But you know what I'm saying, though?
Right.
That the element of the threat was always there because Watson had the ability to take the top off. And that's what I'm saying. And people will scream at me, and I remember Chris Kleiman looked at me straight in the face when they beat Northern Iowa when I asked him about the passing game. And he goes, Dom, what did we run for today? 270? Yeah, I'm going to take that every time. And he's exactly right. And the Bison ran for what, Jeff? 298 or whatever it was against Arizona?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. But
at what cost will that take over the course of a year?
Needing a play on the outside to advance the ball. Now, for fans that are going down, and I think this is interesting because we're all set for this, and I remember talking with David Herbster, the South Dakota athletic director, in our no game show that we did in March of 21, how excited they were. I think there were going to be donors there that day to show off the new Dakota Dome. And obviously the game didn't happen. For fans that are going to travel down, I won't say it's a brand new building, but it looks vastly different
better
than the last time the Bison were there in 2018.
For a building that was built in 77, I want to say
we're nearing 50 years old with that building.
But it's a concrete bunker is what it is. I mean, it's just the amount of concrete
rises out of the ground.
Just
it really
a
does.
Big ball of concrete is what it is. But it's a good Missouri Valley home field advantage if they take advantage of it.
And what they did on the far side is really nice for fans and for the students over there. It's now it's an attractive way to watch the game.
Then I watched the game last week, and I'm going, where are they?
Yeah.
Where are the people?
And it's supposed to be relatively nice again tomorrow, so that might not help either. That, hey, you want to come inside to watch a football game. We only have so many nice Saturdays in this part of the world that may detract there. They've spent money on an outdoor practice facility as well. So USD has invested to be more competitive in football. And now it's on Nielsen to do that, how do they get out of the middle part and get to I'm not saying 1 or 2, but can they get to 3 and 4, Jeff? Can they get to that level?
Do you recall last year at South Dakota State, we had John Stiglmeyer on our pregame show?
Yep, which is pretty cool.
And he's sitting there. We're sitting there in the brand new Dana Dykhouse Stadium, and he points to the indoor facility and he goes, "That is more important than this. Way more important. The practice facility, indoor." So does South Dakota have to build an indoor?
Well, I asked Bob that. He says, we have an indoor. We have the dome. I'm like, oh, all right. Well, that probably gives my answer on where things are going to go there.
But NDSU has both now.
They do. And that's, again, they're on a different level of where they're at with South Dakota. But I think they can. The Coyotes get to a level where they're competing with Southern Illinois and Missouri State. Look at what Mo State has done with.
Well, they made the playoffs last year, for what it's worth.
Well, and here's the thing. It was a complete fluke how they got there, though, with that win over South Dakota State, which, I mean, you look at it, and we're going to mention it on game day tomorrow, I'm sure, during the broadcast. South Dakota has the hardest schedule in the country. If anybody in the FCS, they're playing number 1. They've already played. They're going to play number 2. They've already played number 3. They're going to play number 5. They still have a road trip to Grand Forks, another ranked team, at least of now. That doesn't get. That's about as hard as it gets. And I think SIU still on their schedule as well. So,
do they have Mo State?
Yeah, Mo State's 5. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
They got Mo State as 5th ranked team. At least they were. Now they're tied for 3rd there. So could be a long year for the Coyotes in Vermilion this year. We'll see. They have a bye week after this game. And then they go to Brookings, and the Jackrabbits are waiting just to do whatever they can after how the game last year.
The Hail Mary.
I mean, that was brutal there. Before we wrap here and do some pick'ems, this we mentioned is the opening weekend of Valley play, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I think the best game of the day is in Springfield tomorrow. South Dakota State and Missouri State is just going to be a fabulous football game.
I'm still up in the air how to pick that game.
Oh, come on!
I am researching.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend the rest of the day diving into it. And by the way, let's give our best to Art Haynes.
Yes, absolutely.
The Missouri State.
The legend at Mo State. Yep.
Broadcaster who's in critical condition now with was it Guillain-Barré syndrome? Mm-hmm. So
it's come on
our best.
Quick
come on,
here.
Art.
Yep, we're
let's
thinking
rally.
of you, buddy. These two schools have not played because of the rotation, Jeff. So since Petrino took over, he has not played South Dakota State. So when you talk about games in Springfield, big ones, well, the last 20 years, it's got to be number 1, right? They have this kind of game there.
And we always think, and you always hear, okay, the crowds are going to come back. They're going to come back. I don't know if they ever were there at Plaster Field, but they're going to come back. Now, we'll see. We'll see this year. If Missouri State doesn't come close to a sellout this year, then they never will. They're
never going to come back.
Because that team is entertaining. You have Bobby Petrino. You almost beat Arkansas.
And this is the number 2 team in the country you're playing tomorrow.
Right.
South Dakota State is not unknown.
I don't want to hear if they draw 9,000 people tomorrow. I never want to hear anything more about the crowds are coming back.
If you're not making a pick, I will.
Okay.
I'm picking Mo State.
You are.
I think Missouri State's going to win that football game tomorrow. Send a little message here. Finally get a big conference win.
Because the last 2 years, they've bowed out in the playoffs in the first round.
Correct.
Bad loss to Tennessee Martin.
Yep.
So you think they are in need of...
They have not beaten any of the top teams yet. They have not beat the Bison, and they haven't played South Dakota State. So I think they're going to get the Jacks tomorrow. We'll see. South Dakota State,
I like the way you're thinking.
We'll see. I think there's going to be a heck of a football game. Let's spend just a quick word here. It will be quick. On Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa's 0-3. We both had them winning against Sac State last week. Big. Instead, Sac State won by 3 touchdowns in Cedar Falls. What in the world is happening with the Panthers right now?
I don't know. Defensively, they're not very good, which is really unique.
That's a hallmark of them.
Is Mark Farley in trouble? Is that what you're hinting at here?
Not necessarily that. Just like, how did things go so bad so quick?
I know, and I've seen a couple really dedicated Northern Iowa fans have commented on my Twitter that they are tired of not beating the NDSU's.
Interesting.
Yep.
I'm sure a lot of people are tired of that.
They're getting a little tired of being average.
And that's exactly what Northern Iowa is.
Yep.
You can bank on it every year. They'll be 7-4, 6-5, make a late run, get into the playoffs.
They're tired of being average.
Interesting. Well, they're going to get win number 1 this weekend because they're playing Western Illinois, so they're not going to have to worry about not winning a game, but to see them at 0-3.
If they don't meet Western, it's going to be a Scott Frost or Herm Edwards. See you at the end zone.
Man, not good. One other game. Let's pick this one, and then we'll get out of here. UND and Southern Illinois. Now, that's another intriguing
a tough one
there because the Salukis just beat Northwestern after they looked god-awful.
I cannot figure that team out.
Way.
So.
And UND barely won at Northern Arizona last week. That was a lot closer. But if they're able to win Saturday, Fighting Hawks are already 2-0 in Valley play. If they're able to get that one, what do you make there?
That's another game I have to think about. I mean, if it was up the Alaris, it would be UND, I think it'd be a no-brainer pick there, but it's on the road. But SIU isn't particularly that great at home either.
No.
It's not a great home field advantage. Nice stadium.
Yep.
But again, where are the people?
Yeah, they don't show it. No. I'm taking SIU. I think they're gonna win that game at home tomorrow. UND's got to prove it to me to win back-to-back big road games. You do that, then we're having a whole other conversation about Bubba Schweigert's team this year.
And there's nothing really flashy about UND, right?
No, they're solid.
They're solid up and down, just nothing really great.
They're better on the lines,
but nothing
than I
bad.
thought. Nope, they are better up front than people thought going into the season, and I think that's something to keep an eye on. Before we go, give us one last
I haven't made
couple
a
of
pick
keys
yet.
Here. I know. Are you just waiting for tomorrow? Is that what you're doing? You're sandbagging me. How about this one? You got to pick this one. Minnesota and Michigan State.
Michigan State.
Wow. Gophers derailed?
Gophers have played such an awful weak schedule. It's ridiculous.
They have played maybe the worst schedule. And if we're talking about USD, the toughest, Minnesota might have the easiest schedule so far.
And Michigan State's one of the top rushing defenses in the country.
Pretty good. Yep. All right. So you're on the Spartans tomorrow for that game. Let me get one other FBS game since you don't want to touch the FCS games apparently because they're too
hard.
They're too tough for you.
They're too hard.
How about this one? The old battle in the swamp here. Florida and Tennessee tomorrow. What do you got there?
Big Orange. Big Orange is
on the
back.
Vols,
yes.
Huh? All right. FB's interesting. It's been a while since Tennessee has been relevant in college football.
When are we going to go to Tennessee? 2025? 6?
Yeah, 25.
25.
Yes, that's the Nashville. Supposedly. Is that still on? Arizona, what will they finish win total this year? They've got 2 right now. Where do they finish?
I think 4. I think they got 2 more in them in the Pac-12. Now they're talking about going bowling and stuff. I'm going, wow, you're celebrating a win over an FCS program, albeit
You see the celebration after the game, what Jed Fish did?
Yep.
What do we make of that?
It's a coach who's just trying to grasp and do anything positive for a program that was so horrible. So be it.
You don't make anything of
there was nothing
directed
cheap.
at?
No.
That was the thing. After the game, the comments were so odd. I was on the field, Kolpack. I didn't see anything of that nature. And I've covered this team for 15 years. That's anything the Bison have been called is that. Never have I heard that.
It seemed a little just
odd. The whole thing was really odd.
You're a Pac-12 program. Yeah. Act like it. You're acting like you're Southern Illinois. You're acting like you're Western Illinois that just beat the Bison. I just is weird.
Arizona plays Cal coming up on Saturday. Normal kickoff time, 4:30 there. No more of those 10 o'clock kickoffs as long as the normal 1 o'clock tomorrow. Can handle that. Do the pregame show, grab a bite, let's go do the game. I can work that one, right? That'll be the plan. We're our cast of talented people will be down in Vermilion, beginning with Bison Game Day tomorrow at 10 a.m., which you can watch on WDAY. Kolpack will join myself, Logan Campbell. Kyle Emanuel will be back with us this week. We'll be excited for that.
Statewide network, correct?
It will be. And then kickoff. The kickoff show goes to 12:50, so you get to see the Bison run onto the field, and then the game shortly after 1 o'clock. And if you're an Inforum WDAY Sports Plus subscriber, you can watch the game online at Inforum.com. You have to watch the Midco version. You can stream that. I know people that are going to watch on ESPN Plus, you'll get the Midco broadcast, but if you're within the WDAY television footprint, you can watch our broadcast at Inforum.com. Tomorrow.
I'd watch you guys if given the option.
Well, considering you're on the broadcast, I probably I understand why you're picking that, but I appreciate that. We're on the road. We're hitting the road later today. So for Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. That's the latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo Podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank.